So guys, what I wanted to talk about today is something that we deal with one way or the other because we're in this business. And that is when we come across our buyers, what we do with them and what we say and what we ask them. Because, you know, we don't really talk about that very much. We just say, oh, I just had a buyer's consult. Oh, I just met with buyers. What did you do with them? How did you handle them? How did you get them through to the point where they're your people? So anyway, what I want to do is break down kind of the process and the questions that we go through. And actually, I want it to kind of be a roundtable deal too, of people who have things that they do or things that they think work well with, hold on a second, I'm gonna grab this stuff so I can drive. Let's think, Connie?
Yes, I think so. All you.
We trust you completely.
I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna really be able to drive that well, but let's see. Okay, want to share,
Remember it.
there it is.
We'll
There we
put the
are.
thorn between the two roses.
And then, let's see, what do I hit? I just got it. What do I hit up here, Kristen, to get that?
Slideshow in the middle.
Where is it?
Slideshow.
Why am I missing that? Where is it? Right in the middle, over there. There we go. Okay. All right. That's more difficult than I anticipated. Thought that was just going to be an easy click. Right in the middle. Okay. All right. So when we get with somebody, hopefully we're meeting with them in person, right? Right. We're talking about buyers. And the reason why you want to do that is that we all know that there's the nightmare buyer where they say they've been looking on Zillow. Could you please take them over to these houses that they've been looking at? You jump in the car with them and you spend $100 on gas and you never even found out really what their last name was. And has anybody ever heard of something like that happening? Just jump in with the buyers, just let them go. You have no control. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So the first thing we want to do is, if we can, try to get them to your office. If you can't get them to your office, get them to a Starbucks or somewhere where you guys can sit down and really talk and go over what you're going to be doing. But what do you want to, when you're talking about just when you're getting with them, what personal information, how do you guys break that down? You guys don't have to be on mute either. There's not very many people on.
What do you mean, how do we break it down?
You break it down like you talk about their family, their homes, their activities, just kind of getting to know them. That's what I mean. You're gonna want to have a warm up phase. You don't want to just jump right in and say, "What are you looking for? What do you want?"
I ask them about
Yeah.
their family, you know, and what they're interested in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm always,
That's going to help you. That's going to help you get kind of familiar with what kind of people they are. And you'll try to figure out how to fit into that world. Yeah. Okay. So experience, we're talking about their experience. So once you kind of warm up, talk to them a little bit, get a feel for these are normal people that are not going to knife me or shoot me. We're actually going to be able to work together. What do you want to know about their experience?
if they've ever bought a home before, usually, or, you know, or
Yeah. Yes.
that's good to know.
Ding, 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 ding. That's a big one. And then if they have bought a home, like how long have they lived there? They lived there for 3 years. They lived there for 15 years.
Right.
What else?
You know, is that the same home they're living in now, maybe, or are they living in
Yeah.
an apartment because they can't afford the house anymore?
Yeah.
You know, don't know exactly where they're at that point.
How many homes have you owned? Yeah, that's a great thing. You know, this is your first home, this is your third home.
How was the experience?
Yes. Because why do you want to know that?
So you know what not to do this time?
Exactly. Okay, that's such a big one. Finding out what their experience was like, what they liked about that agent, or what they liked about that experience or agent, and to get a feel for that, because you're going to hopefully be their agent, so you want to know what they like, what did they not like, did they like to be treated this way, or did they like this experience of how this went? That's just a great question, because it opens up a lot of things, and all these questions are what they're making your job easier, right? Because you're finding out more information to help you get them to where they want to go, and that's to get a house.
Well, if it was a bad experience and they, the other agent never called them back, never, told them about properties, they always had to tell them about the properties and that. I think that's when people are looking for other agents.
Yeah, exactly. We might want to know how long they've been looking, right? It could be they've just started and you just found them and you're on point one, or they've been looking for 6 months and haven't had any luck and they were with another agent, or they weren't with an agent at all. They're just Zillow people.
Mhm.
They just look all the time and go to open houses. But those are all good things to know, right? Because and then if they have been looking for 6 months, have they seen any homes that they liked?
If they find one, they want to leave.
If they have.
Well, I think with the market we've been in, they might have found things they liked, and they might have been maybe writing contracts with someone else and getting frustrated because they weren't getting anything. So they thought they'd get a different agent, but it's not the agent, it's the market right
Yeah.
now. Mhm.
You might ask, what kind of homes are they looking for? What kind of homes do they have in mind? We'll get to that here in a second, but that's one of the things that you go into. You might want to know if they're pre-approved somewhere along the line there. Have you set down that path to get, because that'll tell you also where they are in the process. If they haven't gotten pre-approved, there's a good chance that they're at the beginning of this as opposed to being in the middle of it. And what do we want to do if they aren't pre-approved?
Get them pre-approved.
Yeah, and at that point, you probably got somebody that you like, you work with, you feel good about, and it's always much better to have them with somebody that you know to help them because it helps you. So then you can just say, listen, I've got a friend of mine that's in the mortgage business. They do a great job. I can help you with that. Let me get you connected with them. Okay, so let's talk about urgency. That's an important one, right? Because it could be, we just sold our home, we don't have a place to live, or our kids don't get out of school until May and we're in January and they just kind of want to look around. So those are kind of important. So urgency is a big deal. So what are some other questions in urgency? What would you want to know?
You want to know about the schools if they have kids, if they want to be in a certain school district.
Yep, that's a really good question. You might want to know what's their time frame. How soon do you need to be moved? What is your goal? Then what's your realistic plan of when to be wherever you are? What would work for you? Because you need to be more or less in that world with them. If they're in 30 to 60 days and it's go time and you got to get on the thing right now, or if it's 3 months, then you know that you've got a person you're going to be working with for a little while. I think this is a good question. If we found the right home today, what would you do?
That is
because it just opens up a lot of discussion. Let's see, what's another question here?
That's good.
Oh, yeah, this is good too. What would how would your plans be affected if you moved earlier or later? Just so you get a feel of their urgency of, they say they need this, but what if you found something next week?
Especially if somebody's in a lease or something like that, would they have to buy out the lease, or do they have the option to do that, or?
Yeah, what are their, how loose or tight are they on their real time schedule? Okay. Because you're asking them basically, why is this time frame important to you? So that gives you kind of once you find out and you ask them why the time frame is important to them, then you start working down that path with them on how to get that done. Okay, so urgency is a big part of this. Next one, I think, is the biggest part for you, the agent, for us, their needs and priorities. Strangely enough, when I read on these different things, this is one that gets kicked over to the curb a lot. It's the needs and priorities are like, when's your go time? What do you got to do? How much money you got? Let's go. And they don't find out exactly what are we looking for. We're looking for a ranch house. We're looking for a two-story. You want a big backyard. You want the school. All those things. So let's go over that a little bit. Needs and priorities. Here's a good question. Of all the things you're trying to accomplish in this move, what's the most important? That's a good one. Because it might be their school district. It might just be, it's not even, they're not even upset about the house size or whatever. They just want to get into X school district because they got to be there. Or they need a big backyard. There's 5 dogs and they can't all be in the house. Whatever. Of course, our dogs would be in the house even if we had a big backyard. This is all different.
That's a pack.
Okay, here's a good question, because this will tell you about what they are looking for, but also what they like in the home they have. In your current home, what are the things about it that you like the best and why? It's a good question because they're looking for a new home, but there might be things in the home they're living in that they like. That they're, when you notice this when people go look at new homes, they're comparing it to their home. And if they really like the kitchen and family room, they're looking, when they look, for that place that's kind of like their place. So in your current home, what are the things about it that you like the best and why? What's your favorite room in your home? Why? How large a home do you have in mind? Why? Help me visualize how you'd like your new home to look. What are the most important features to you and why? What are 3 things you can't live without? Why? Huge question. Huge question. I'll repeat that. What are the 3 things you can't live without and why? Why is that such a big question for us as agents?
You don't want to send them a bunch of stuff or show them a bunch of stuff that is going to match to what they looked anyway.
Because it doesn't fit their criteria. Once you know the 3 most important things, that really funnels some things down for you when you go and looking for houses. A lot. All of a sudden, your search for them and their homes, when they're saying these are the 3 most important things that I've got to have in this house, all of a sudden your search, instead of a ocean of, oh my gosh, how am I going to find these people something? These 3 most important things, I know in every criteria search I'm doing, I'm going to have those 3 things. The non-negotiables. This is kind of an interesting question. Do you have any special furniture you need to accommodate for the next move? Some people have these hutches or whatever, and they're made for the kitchen or whatever. That's good to know. Because it also, when you're looking at these new places, you know how that furniture would fit into the new place.
4 years we found a place for this.
And this is one to throw out because especially in this market, you might be shoved into this opportunity because you have to be. How do you feel about buying a brand new home? How do you feel about a townhome? So, I mean, you guys kind of get the idea that the needs and the priorities in a buyer consult are really big. One of the things we do in Momentum, we have a needs and wants form, and it's got all these things on it, and they put whether they need that or they want that, and then it's both partners that fill that out, and then you take that, and we actually have that made up as a form. It's got Remax Gold and whatever. If anybody wants that, I think it's helpful in a buyer consult because you just give that to them, get them something to drink, you know, tell them we're not, you know, grading them on this. It's just their opinions to help you out, but it's useful. And there's all kinds of different kinds. There's some for Momentum, there's some for Ninja, but anyway, it's just a way to get them involved. And then you take that sheet, and that's the sheet that you go with. After you've asked them through these questions and had this meeting, but it's part of the meeting, part of the buyer consult meeting. For those who've been through Momentum, you know that form. You guys have any other things that you think of in needs and priorities?
Can I add something on the financial part?
Yeah.
What I've been doing with buyers too is if they ask the question, you know, do you need any resources for financing while we're on the phone? And then if they say that they haven't worked with anybody, then I'll ask the lender to meet with us as well, because it kind of creates that whole, you know, team atmosphere that you have a whole team of people working on their behalf. So, and a lot of times the lenders love that because it gives them a chance to get in front and show their credibility as well.
I gotta tell you, Kay, I'm so glad you brought that up because on the flip side of that, Greg was telling me how much he likes that opportunity because it helps both sides. It makes you the expert professional that you're bringing a team, and it helps the lender from the side that they also look like this is part of what they do, and they're going to be more connected to the client.
Right. And both of you kind of tag team and you ask, maybe they ask some questions that you didn't think about or vice versa. And it gives a chance for everybody to know each other better.
Do you do it in person? Do you do it Zoom? How do you?
Usually in person.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, now that it's opened up a little bit, well, you know, I mean, my initial conversation is usually on the phone. And then I set up the appointment to meet them in person because I've been able to retain buyers so much better by spending that time up front, you know, plus for safety purposes and stuff, you don't want to just fly out and meet people, but yeah, I mean, it's just spending that time knowing that you're willing to invest time in them before you know, whether it's going to go anywhere or not is huge.
I know it. Go ahead.
To piggybacking on the first issue that you mentioned about determining a buyer's needs and what they didn't like, or what they did like about someone else. And I worked together with a client that I had. It was very furious because his previous agent never communicated with him. He would never tell him what the status of the market was. What the
Have a bad
feedback was
taste
on
in
them.
mouth.
And he kept constantly talking about how much he appreciated working with us because what he didn't like with the other agent over a period of about 6 months. So listening to people is really, really very important in an initial interview. The second thing would be that there's a reason or a purpose for a buyer's agency agreement. And a lot of people either don't want to sign something or they don't understand the reason for what the buyer's agency agreement is all about. But if they're looking on Zillow and going to open houses without you, that needs to be impressed in terms of the connection that they have with you as an agent versus, you know, buying something with someone else with a benefit.
Yeah.
And what the purpose of the buyer's agency agreement is all about. So meeting with them initially to kind of explain that is important.
Yeah.
In this particular market, I think that it's important. I don't work with a lot of buyers, but recently I've run across a situation where it's important to educate people in terms of their expectations when they're buying something. I mean, the last offer that I submitted, you know, I consulted with Mike Meeker as well as this lady on the side of me because it's a really, really difficult market. And I wanted to try to put my best foot forward in writing an offer. And with the best of intentions, the house had 10 offers, and 7 of them were way over the list price. And, you know, my buyers, of course, are upset. You know, they're really, really heartbroken because they didn't get this house. You know, I feel bad about them. But I think when you have an initial interview with them, you need to let them know what the situation is like and what they expect. Because their first, Randy Brown actually showed them the house, and their first initial reaction was, oh, we want to offer full price cash. Well, full price cash isn't really going to get it. And they don't really realize, the reality of the situation unless you let them know that this is a really competitive market. Full price cash, everybody's got full price cash right now. That's not going to do anything. And they don't really know. They're just totally, naive. So therefore, when you submit an offer and it's not accepted, even if it's overpriced and they don't get it, it's good to kind of have that conversation with them.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that we were gonna have to cover right at this moment, Ever, because we have to bring that buyer into the market and have them understand, because some people might have more knowledge than others, but for the most part, they're more on the peripheral of understanding what's really going on in the market. I was thinking yesterday, our all agents meeting, what Lynn was presenting is an awesome thing to present to your buyers. Just to show them, if they're looking in the Chesterfield market, here's what's going on compared to last year. So that they know that there's nothing on the market, or that, the showings or listings are down, 30% or whatever that all those numbers that we have are, really gives you a quick snapshot of, this is us, we're going to enter into all this, and this is, this is as competitive as it's going to be. But the better that they know that, right? No reason to hide that, because like you said, Everett, they're going to get into a situation that's going to be competitive, where they're offering $30,000 more than the list price and not getting it. And they're going to have to, you're going to have to keep them their hopes up to get to the next deal. But I think those statistics, and there's statistics that really tell a story that I think should be part of your buyer consult, and then reviewed again. As we talked about before, and then you bring that back out. This is what we're working with, but we're going to get there because we're in it. We're going to be aggressive with it. We're going to get the best deal that we can get. Setting expectations is huge, because you don't want them to be unrealistic going into this market. Not at all.
Then another thing too is, since we're representing the buyers, it's important to try to counsel them in terms of the importance of inspections, the different kinds of inspections that there are, what the purpose of them is, and what the litigation after litigation, but the problem that might arise as a result of not having it to buy a house, because a lot of people are submitting offers with no inspection.
Yeah.
No appraisals. And I was working with some people that are cash buyers. And first of all, cash is king, but there are a lot of people that are cash buyers. And secondly, if they're going to be a cash buyer, you have to have a conversation. Well, can you provide a proof of funds? A lot of people don't want to, let you know exactly how much money that they have.
Right.
So you have to have a way in mind to be able to get, some kind of proof of funds letter or verification if you're working with a cash buyer versus if you're working with someone who's getting a loan. And if the person's getting a loan, then the house they're buying is going to have to be appraised. And then if it doesn't appraise, then there's no deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's just and that's part of them understanding the process. And as it goes along, it's important that they know that process, so that they aren't surprised as they're getting into it. I mean, the worst thing that can happen with a buyer is them getting surprised. Well, it's we were talking about the other day, the last time we all got together, of having that step-by-step thing. Once you get this done, once they become your customer, or on the listing side, send them out like either, I think the best thing is a video, but if not, send them a checklist of what's going to happen next, all the way to the finish line, so that they know what they're doing in the process, and it'll feel like they're not being surprised. You can continually talk to them, and it helps you communicate with them because they know where they are in the process.
And I want to make one other comment too. I think that your suggestion on making video here, because I sent them a report in terms of the ratio of homes that sold over this particular price. There were 22 of them in a certain area, in a report, in an MLS report. to kind of illustrate what's going on in the market. But I don't think that that really resonated with them. You know, I don't think they've really paid that much attention to it because, you know, people are on their phones and they're on their iPads. And when you send someone something, I don't think they really get it unless you have an in-person meeting with them.
Mhm.
You can't always have an in-person meeting with them and you try to do something quickly, but if you send them a video,
Don't pay attention.
that'll catch their attention.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of, you know, that'll also underscore the importance of what it is that you're trying to get
Yeah.
convey to them. Because I've sent reports all the time, you know, this is a good report, this is a good report. I mean, the one that Creighton had helped me develop was a great report. But I sent it to them and this is, oh, great. Okay, well, it's great, but do you realize that you can't make an offer for what price and expect to get it based on my report? It's as if there was a misconnect.
Right.
And I think it was because they didn't even pay that much attention to the report.
I
The
agree.
report is great.
Yeah, but if they don't understand it and you don't talk to them so that you know that they understand it, the video will be the next best thing to get the point across.
Totally agree. Okay, so the next step would be their process that they bought before. And this kind of goes back, Kate, to what you were talking about. How did they start looking last time? You know, what was their experience like with the agent? You know, what steps did they go through? Did anyone help them make this? From the time you started, how long did the whole process take until you found the house? That's a good question, though, because if it took them a long time, I'm gonna give you an indication.
So
that we
count on it. Count on it.
So make sure that that's a question that's worked in there. From the time you started, how long did the whole process take until you found the house that you wanted? Did the process work pretty well for you? Is there something you would do differently if you had to do it over? Good question. Should probably be asked every time that you're in a buyer consult. Did the process work pretty well for you? Is there something you would do differently if you had to do it over? Because they are doing it over because you're now in the process again. And you want to be the one that fixes that or rights the wrong and becomes basically the hero in the scenario to get them where they want to go. Anything else that you guys would look for in that process? I skipped over the financial qualifications. That's really just basically finding out from them, what do you want to spend? You know, would you be willing to go over that because we're in this market, which Everett just kind of went over. You know, because of that, we might be having to go over that price. Is that possible? It is good to have that conversation along with like Lynn's numbers to be able to balance that out and have that discussion right then so that they understand where we are, what we're doing. And then that gives you kind of your parameters of how you're going to work with them. And the back part of it is your process. You're going to explain to them everything you're going to do for them, right? I mean, everything that you do that makes you you, that gets you to all the things that you know help sell or help bring a house to them is how you're going to make that and be that and tell them that. And everybody's different in that. So I won't go into that as much as just, you know, how you market yourself at the end of that. But if anybody wants these, I go over this in Momentum and it's one of those things. And we also have, before we ever get to this, and I'll send you guys that too, your pre-listing or your actually that's different. Pre-listing questions are when you're on the listing side. But there is the warm-up on the phone side that I'll send you. Then once you've got them, this is where you start. So I wanted to bring something else up, guys. There was a, I think Lynn got this. I think Kristen got it.
Well, Jose got it, I was mentioning.
Jose got it, okay. Something really interesting. I'll get it off of the share here.
Wow.
I want to see their faces when they hear this.
So there's a company that you can become part of and I think it was like $495. We'll send you the information on it, but I think it was 140 sent out, 350 and whatever, it was 900 some odd.
First class meal.
First class mail. But they have created a program that uses different handwriting with real pens that's by computer. And it, well, I don't have the,
Here it is. You can use that.
yeah, I'll just show you here on the. It really is written by a pen. And it's got, if you go to audience.com.co. This is, and it's, if you notice, it's got a QR code at the bottom of it.
Mm.
But, so the envelope is written by the pen. So the envelope has, it's all handwritten, and you can see that, and it's got the stamp on it. The numbers are pretty, and the testimonials are pretty incredible for marketing. I forget, it's 4 times the open rate of a regular piece of mail. There's agents on there talking about they just started using this 3 months ago and they're getting listings from these mailings. But it might be something you guys want to check out. It's,
Never heard of it.
yeah, co-branding opportunity. Lynn just brought up that there's probably a good chance that you could co-brand this opportunity with one of your partners.
I
And
like
what
the
is that?
exclusivity part of it, Brent.
Yeah. Yeah,
So if I send them my list and I have 200 people and Neil sends in his list later, they're not gonna send one out on behalf of Neil. They're gonna say Lynn already sent it to him. So it stops that overlapping, because these are templates, right? That these notes are made out of. So they don't get another card. Yes. So it looks like you're pretty special that you got that.
yeah. You know, you don't see, well, I guess you do. You see new stuff all the time, but this is mixing old fashioned with technology. You know, we talk about how important it is to have handwritten notes. This is a handwritten note with a program computer that uses a pen, and it also uses different handwriting styles, which I think, you know, I think there's 4 or 5 that I looked at that have different handwriting styles, cursive, print. There's different kinds of print, different kinds of cursive. But it's audience.co, not com, it's .co. But I encourage you guys to check that out because, first of all, it's like Lynn said, if you do it, they're new. I think they've only been out for 4 or 5 months. So if you get in this and you get an area or your farm area, you're exclusive to that, which is good stuff. The other thing I wanted to say about the buyer consult, if you have someone that's needing to be pre-approved or needs to go through that process, you're obviously going to have a second meeting with them. And in that second meeting, you're also going to go over what you've got for them to look at so you guys can go out. So I didn't actually, I kind of left you all hanging there, but that's how you want to end that is get them pre-approved and then meet with them again. And then that gives you time to go through and look for the houses that met their criteria to, and then somewhat summarize what you went through with them in the first buyer consult so everything's fresh before you jump out in the car and go. What were you looking for, Len?
Price.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I had a person investigation, and I thought that was pretty expensive. But the underlying premise would be that handwritten notes are very effective. And then the more you can do them and then implement them in your business, the more effective that you can be. Because I have just started doing something with some handwritten notes that Kristen had a really nice image for that she used. And I sent it to about 12 people. And one of the previous buyers that I had sent it to call me, they were really impressed, with it, and wanted to give me some comment about it. And I thought, well, it must be working, because, I've got some positive feedback from at least one person that initiated a call to me as a result of receiving it. So, I, even if you don't subscribe to this company that does it, if you just do it on your own.
No question.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we've been talking about for a long, long time is that the handwritten note is a big deal. And in your handwriting on the envelope, I know Kristen Kaufman went through that. I think she did 300 or so. And she had good feedback from that.
There's just so many companies and agencies that are always calling me to try to get me to sign up for something, to spend more money per month or something. I mean, the number of expenses that you can incur in real estate is like endless. So I mean, it's a good idea, but it's not necessarily the most cost saving measure based on how much money you're making. And you have to put money into things that are going to be effective.
Yeah.
It's your silo effect though, right? It's working while you're working on other things.
Mhm.
It's something that's going out, you don't have to think about it.
Well, for those who remember that we talked about those three categories, you've got the old fashioned, you got automated, and you got your social empire. This clearly goes straight into your automated. And like Lynn just said, you're not having to do something on the old fashioned side here, you're moving it into the automated and hopefully getting something more out of it. I think the most probably informational part of that website is the testimonials from the agents that are already using it. I would check those out because there were a few on there that were talking about how they had got it going, and it was the first time or second time around they had gotten a couple listings out of it, so it obviously paid for itself more so than not. What else, guys? What else did I not say?
Well, Brent, I kind of think this is something to do this month and then maybe wait 3 or 4 months and send another one.
Yeah.
You can't leave every month you're sending a handwritten note anyway. But
Right.
it only takes one transaction that if you did it every month,
To make
it
it
would
work.
pay for itself. But again,
Yeah, something to try out if you want. All right, guys, anything else?
Hey Brent, can you scan that and send it to us?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say.
You talking about the handwritten note?
Yeah, can you scan that and send it along?
show it to them on the camera.
Mhm.
It was hard to read when you all put it up in front of us.
Yeah, and probably the easiest thing for you guys to do is go to audience.co, because you can actually see close up all the different handwriting. And they've got an introductory video, and then they've got several videos of agents that have used it, but they've also got the statistics on that website. So if you really want to get deeper into it, we spent, what, Lynn, 15, 20 minutes on it yesterday, but
Yeah.
you can spend more time on it.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. I got started looking at it and I have ADD, but I was able to focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the biggest purpose of why I was wanting to go over something today, that's something that's not super like exciting, because it's something we do all the time. And it's one of those things we want to make sure that we're following through on. And if you want, I can send you guys the ninja questions that I was going off of today, if you think that'd be helpful. They're just simple questions, and I encourage the people who are starting new just to use them. Don't memorize them, just sit down with them and ask your people those questions.
I think it's important that you listen, ask a question, let them talk. I remember a call I went on with the agent recently, and the house didn't sell. And so asking questions and letting them talk, what was it that you liked about your agent? What things didn't you like? And so you write those down and And you don't have to come back or say right when they're speaking, oh, we got the best photographer ever. No, let them get all the way through and then come back and say, hey, Brent, I'd like to present to you how my photographer does our homes. That we do a video, we do the drone, and I'd like to demonstrate that to you. Knock their socks off. That's what you do on the things they.
Because now
told
you already have the answers before the test.
Yes, but don't interrupt them while they're going through that process.
There's a funny story that Brian Buffini tells about asking questions and how people perceive that. He said one night he came back and he'd been on stage and he was out in Vegas and he finally got home and it was later, but his wife had a dinner party. And she called, she said, you know, I think you're still gonna be able to make it. There's people still here. And he's like, it's the last thing I want to do is deal with people. And so he gets in there. And so he walks in and, you know, there's a few people, he says, he gets engaged in this conversation. So he just continually asks her questions. And then by the time he's done, he kind of drifts off and goes to his room and goes to bed. And the next morning, his wife was the lady that he was talking to. She said, your husband is so nice. He's so incredibly engaged. He's just an incredibly nice guy. And he was saying that the funny thing about it is he never said anything. He just asked her a whole bunch of questions and took off. And she perceived that as the most thoughtful, nice, engaging person. And that's exactly what people love to talk about themselves. So don't ever forget that.
Right.
Asking questions is a
I
big
think it's
deal.
important while they're telling you their story. You don't have to like, oh, I know a story, something like that.
To top it.
Just don't try to trumpet whatever it is. Listen, take copious notes, and turn that into something.
And they'll think you're brilliant
Yeah.
and nice.
My Frank is really good at that.
He
He
is.
is good.
Oh my gosh,
He is
he-
good at
He's
that.
a good question.
People love that.
Oh my gosh, he finds out things about people and I'm like, I didn't know all
Yeah.
that. I've been working with him for 5 weeks, you know, but he's amazing. I mean, he asks a lot of good questions and,
Yeah.
you know, and people know he cares because it's like, you know, he wants to know what makes him tick and, you know, when he finds out,
Yeah.
you know.
And he comes across as caring and thoughtful when you do that. And it helps your business. So.
You know what, I think, Brent, I think it's a training process. And you're so good at that anyway, that if someone says, Brent, can we just practice? Let's just practice this. It becomes natural to you.
Yeah.
Because it's not a normal conversation. You've totally made it about them.
And that's what they like.
They love it.
Yeah. And if you do that and the other agent doesn't do that, that they're trying to hire, they're going to go with the one that they think is thoughtful, caring, and professional. Yeah. Yes, such thoughtful questions. They really care about us. Okay, guys. Thanks for being on. Stay out of the heat.